What's up, you guys? My name is Patrick from Elevated Fabworks. Today, we're working on my 1985 Toyota 4Runner. This thing I've had for 2 years now, but before that, I owned it almost a decade ago. Sold it, bought it back. We painted it in the last episode, and today we're finally building the armor for it. Front bumper, sliders, rear bumper. We're gonna go ahead and mount this Warren Evo VR10S. Thank you, Warren, for hooking it up, making sure we're always prepared. And we're gonna mount it via a Harbor Freight universal winch mounting channel. It's a winch plate, that's all it is. It's 50 bucks. And in my opinion, it's hard to beat that value. It's 1/4 inch steel, it's super big, it's super overkill. You can kind of mount it however you want to whatever you want. We're just gonna use this to build the bumper off of, basically. We'll make some brackets, we'll bolt it to the front of the bumper. It'll be pretty good. I'll show you exactly how we do it. So let's go ahead, dive in, get the tube in here, get the plate steel in here, make this stuff happen, because hammers is creeping up very quickly. Woo! Fun fact, I hauled that steel from this shop to Northern Idaho and back, because steel's expensive in Northern Idaho and you aren't gonna find me buying steel up there. This is 1 3/4 hot roll tubing. It's all we need for what this thing's gonna do. We're not gonna race it, we're not gonna wreck it. It's just there for smashing against rocks. We're gonna reinforce the crap out of it. It's gonna be fine. This is my tubing bender, JD2 Model 32. I've had it for almost a decade now. I've bent the crap out of some of the parts, being an idiot with the air over hydro conversion. Let's get to mocking up this winch where it might go on the 4Runner. This is not gonna be quite tall enough. I found a box and a bucket. We got this winch box, the control box off the top of it, and this is in a much better location. We have it sucked up as tight as we can. We have it as high as we can, best approach angle. It's out of the way. It's not gonna get smashed by rocks too much, hopefully. This goes against a lot of what I know. I usually weld my bumpers on, but this bumper is being bolted on so I can paint it and weld it off the truck. It's just how we're rolling with this one. And we actually, wow, that's crazy. But there's holes in this winch plate on the back. And there's 2 bolt holes here in the frame, and this is for a stock bumper. That's insane that that almost lines up. Boom, we're done. Bumper's finished, winch is mounted. Just kidding, 2 bolts is not near enough. But that is the nice thing about these Harbor Freight winch mounts. We have 2 bolts in it, a little couple holes, and it's now where we kind of sort of want it. So that's a win. We're already way ahead, worth the 50 bucks. Boom. Just want to make sure it's strong enough that we can, well, hang this truck from a tree from it. So we chopped up what we didn't need. We prepped a bunch of areas that I'm pretty sure we're gonna weld to. I guaranteed we're gonna weld to. So we'll bolt it back on and see what happens. I mean, that's pretty dang solid as is, but we're gonna make it like super solid. Gonna build some brackets out of 3/16 and tack it on in place. Forgot to prep the part. We're about to get welding, boys. I know I've already MIG welded, but it's been a minute since I've been on my TIG welder in my shop. Yeehaw! We got our top 2 tabs for this body mount bracket, I'm gonna call that. Welded in, we'll also do a pass on the backside. Now we need to make our gusseting / 3rd bolt hole on the bottom, and then the winch and winch plate are done. We just have the rest of the bumper to build. We're gonna have tabs here, 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 and here. They're gonna go kind of like so. And then we'll also weld a backer plate on right there. That's flush with the already existing plate here. And we will have 1 more bolt hole here and there, and this winch plate will be going nowhere. One bolt here, 1 bolt behind the winch, and then we have this one going to the body bolt as well. I'm gonna make 2 more tabs like we have welded to the frame here, and we'll do 1 bolt here and 1 bolt there. And that'll just ensure that when pulling on the winch, we don't pull the winch plate straight off the truck if we're real stuck. Because I like to really get in situations that could be less than ideal. We have the winch mounted on the 4Runner, which is awesome, but unfortunately we don't have a winch mounted on our car hauler. I bought another POS Toyota, and newsflash, it doesn't run. So we're gonna mount up a winch plate using some scrap 3/16 and some other scrap steel and the winch off of my old trailer. Been a minute since I've ran the MIG welder. It's kind of nice. I love welding, just in general. MIG, TIG, never really done stick. Welding is cool though. Winch plate, couple holes, she's dialed. The winch worked. We loaded up the car that we were gonna go buy. Right here, it's dandy. We still need to get the fairlead mounted, but for now, it's working great. Check out this 88 Yoda we got. 2-wheel drive, little 4-banger. This thing's a unit. I think we might end up doing a video or a few on this one. I'm not sure yet. I just bought it because it was a good deal. You know, I'm addicted to buying good deals. Let's get back to building that front bumper. Now, tube bender, it's out. Tubing in the bender. Homemade pipe stand, you already know it. I am so stoked. I know I'm shouting, I'm sorry you guys. We got the welder. We're gonna start bending some tube. I'm just gonna start thinking about designs and playing around with tube. We have plenty enough that I can mess it up a couple times and not worry about it. So right here, I have 2 pieces of flat stock that I bolted together, and I use this as my template for what I want to notch my tube at, the angles, and it gives me an idea of where I want the bend. Then you can use an angle finder, or angle finder is what I call them, to figure out what angle you need to bend it to. I think that will work for the angle we're needing. We're putting it up here and making sure that once we make these bends, it's gonna be long enough for what we need. And it's looking like it's gonna be perfect. These are all my tube bending templates. What they are is they have a score in them where they sit in the tube bender relative to the very beginning of the die. So when I use this one's a 22.5 degree one, I know exactly where I need to mark on the tube I'm working with to set it in the die and know exactly where that bend's gonna start and what it's gonna do. What I wanna do is make sure that we measure here to the center, 10.25. I wanna mark the same thing going the other way because we want the bumper to be symmetrical. So now we have this bend and that bend marked. We're gonna bend these both to 25 degrees, but before I bend them both, I'm gonna bend one, just in case I want a little more bend or I bent it too much. It's easier to correct one than it is if I bend them both. This whole tube probably would be cooked. Here soon we'll have air on both sides of the shop. We're gonna do a shop upgrade update video. I have a lot of stuff coming, but for now, we're running air all the way across the shop. No kink. I think I'm gonna bend it just a few more degrees. Go to like a 28. It's always hard getting this one bent again. We'll give it a shot. Added a few more degrees there. I like it. 29 on the other side now. Bumper things, bumper things. And that is the beginning of what our bumper is gonna look like. Real sleek, low profile. I'm digging it already. So we marked our last bend for this side with one of our template cut already bent pieces, and I will measure from our existing known symmetrical point, the first bend we did, measure from here to there, 17 and 7/8. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side to keep everything symmetrical, 17 and 7/8. Throw them in the bender, bend these to 45, and then the top main bar for this bumper is done. Pretty easy. Yeah, this is one of the better bumpers I've made. We got our 2 bends here and 2 more bends. So we'll lop this off at an angle. I think this top bar came out phenomenal. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just use some scrap steel to tack it in place so that we don't have to think about it moving while we do all the bracing and reinforcing to get all the other tubes mounted up to this upper bar, upper piece. I'm not sure what you wanna call it. So, after much finagling, I do believe this is where we want the bar to be. We're just gonna mark where we're gonna cut the end of it square for now. It will end up getting an angle, just like the fender cut, so that the tires don't run into it. This is exciting. We have a couple braces, just making sure it stays where we want. I want to start working on the tubes coming out. So we need a piece of plate going from 2 inches to 3/4. We got one of our support braces in over here. I actually had to remake this little end cap. At first I had a straight slant. This time I came out at a full height and then slanted down so it could receive the tube. I'm thinking one more tube from right here up to this corner, and then from this corner down. I like the sleek looks, and I want as many points of contact just because, well, I'm hard on things. Also, getting back in the swing of TIG welding, very much enjoying it, and these ferret cups are absolutely gangster. Thank you for sending these out. Oh my goodness. I think this thing came out sick. I mean, look at that low profile, sleek bumper. We added these 2 outer ones, one on each side, and then this is kind of the final tube. I'm gonna keep it super minimalistic, super sleek looking. I love that look. It's my iconic look. I build all my bumpers this way. Thought I might change this one up, but nope. And I think after that, it should be strong enough. We're missing some slider protection, some rocker protection. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go get even more steel, drag it in here, and we're gonna just start building sliders. I am gonna do a kick out. I've never done kick out on my own sliders, but I do wanna do a kick out on these sliders. I think it'll look good. Sliders are super simple. It is just me in the shop filming today, so I'll try and bring you along, but they are simple. It's a total of 3 bends for the whole set of sliders, so nothing bad at all. Yes, sir. We have our 1/8 inch 2x2 square stock, our 1/8 inch 1 3/4 OD tubing, and what we did first and foremost is we polished up the tube that we're going to be working with. We're TIG welding everything, so TIG welding, you want steel super clean. I use a super cheap Amazon special tube polisher. It works really well. What we're going to do now is we're going to start taking numbers to see how long we want our sliders. We want to make sure that on up travel, our tire doesn't run into them. So we're gonna keep them back from this pinch roll just a wee bit. Right about there in case we end up going to 39s or 38s or 40s eventually. And we'll probably stop the front of the slider right about here. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. Probably in line with this fender is where we'll stop that, just in case, again, we have to come in here and end up clearancing that for 40s one day. I don't know where this rig's gonna end up, but 40s is a possibility. Busting out the cold cut saw because we need a 62-inch piece of square tubing. We have now prepped both sides of both of our tubes, that are main tubes for the rock sliders, and we've also prepped the first tube for the first rock slider. What we need to do now is we need to figure out how long we want our kick out. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna come down here, and I like to keep my kick out basically behind the door. We're going for maybe 20 inches, more like 18. 46 accounts for about a degree of spring back, maybe a degree and a half. Oh. All right, sweet. Got a 45. Going for an 18-inch kick out, and I want my kick out to be probably maxed out on this bend. So we'll use this line as our straight edge, and we'll have 4 inches in between here. And on the non-kick out, we'll probably keep it about 2.5. Now what we can do is, since we're on this line, we can use it as a reference, mark our 20 inches. That's what I just decided we're gonna do. And this is where we want it to come back in and cross over that line. We'll use our 45-degree indicator. Now we can use this, set it on top of this, and know exactly where we want to start our next bend. It's gonna be tight. Guess we're going 20, 22. It's not gonna leave us much out as the kick out. Yeah, so we're gonna go 22 just for the sake of everything working and being happy. This is where we want to start our next bend, going that way. Stick that in, make sure that the die lines up with that, and everything should work out. So we'll bend this one, and then we'll be able to cut this off of the rest of our stick and hopefully have enough to finish out this slider. We now have both of the kickouts cut and ready to be welded onto this tube. We would have made a whole slider out of that one tube, but we really screwed this one up. You can see how much it rocks. And while it was probably good enough isn't good enough around here. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna lay this tube right on top of this. The reason I do this is because it's acting like a straight edge this way. This should be perfectly square. So when you sight down this side of the tube, you can actually mark out over half of the cut that you have to do. And when you're using a grinder with a fresh cutoff blade, you can just cut the whole thing with that. We're going for 4 inches here to the cut, 4 inches there, 4 inches there. Now we can just sight down this side and mark out the entire cut. Do they probably sell a jig for this? Yeah. Am I gonna buy one? Probably not. But now you can see we have our marking on both sides. Hope I didn't get you guys all pitted. No, you're good. It's so good. Both of these are looking awesome. I don't think it could have happened much better. Everything is, everything is dialed. And now what we need to do is copy this to the other kick out. Once we have both of those done, we're gonna polish up this big old stick of tube. And once that's finished, we can bend the main tubes for the sliders and start attaching it all to this square piece. All right, so we finally have most of this tube polished, and if anyone wants to send me an AmeriBraid, I will take it. While the polisher does work, it's slower than hell, but we got things done. This thing's polished, finally. So we're gonna throw a 45 in the end of this tube, and then I'll show you how I notch or cut this tube to die into these tubes, and we'll weld one whole slider together, and then I'll knock out the other side, and then we'll talk about getting them mounted up. So we'll do the same exact thing. Set this up here, take a couple numbers. We're going for, no, we're gonna go 2 1/4 today, just because I feel like it. You're gonna have to check it a bunch of times because the pivot point isn't exactly perfect, but you'll get there eventually. Same exact mark down it, cut that, and then I'll show you what we do from there. So this is 47 inches to the top of this slider. That's definitely longer than we're gonna need here. So now I can take this tape, go here, go to the very end of that, mark 47 inches over here. We can cut it there, and we know that we have enough tube, but not so much that we're wasting a bunch. Boom, it is plenty long. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tack the kick out to our tube here, and then we'll worry about notching this last one. Obviously, this is gonna be notched at a 45-degree angle because we bent that at a 45, and 45 plus 45 equals 90, which is how the world goes round, in 90-degree increments. Just 4 of them. Don't worry about my math, okay? We are just about ready to finally weld. Yeehaw! And I really should have some welding sleeves on, and I will put welding sleeves on before we fully weld this out. For now, we're just tacking it, so yep, you're getting just the gloves. I am gonna fully weld out anywhere that's gonna be a total pain once we have that other tube on here. I love TIG welding. So what we're gonna do to get this last slider piece attached is we're gonna set the one end up here where we want it, which is about a 1/4 inch away from the edge. And then we will pick this up until we have our desired 2 1/4 in between the tube and the rail. There it is. We'll come over here, sight our short point, and then sight our long point. Again, a little extra. You can always notch it again. You can never unnotch it. Put this at about a 1/4 inch over here. Oh, it's looking good. I adjusted the notch just 1 degree, 2 1/4, 2 1/4. All right, sick. So we'll clean up this notch over here, just give it a little grind so that we have good material to weld to. When you notch, you end up with a very, very thin piece of material. You wanna get something thicker to weld to. And then we will add a couple of little 45s in here to keep the cohesiveness of all these 45-degree bends. We will rinse and repeat on the other side, get both these sliders knocked out, and then I'll show you guys how to mount them. We need to add 2 supports in the big gap, 1 support in the small gap so no one loses a foot through that big old thing. This is what it's gonna look like when they're on the truck. I have never been a huge fan of the kick out myself, but I think this one suits the truck pretty well. We're gonna bring this one out just a little more than I normally would because I'm fully expecting to use the crap out of these sliders. We're gonna use 4 supports from the main slider to the chassis. At the chassis, we'll use a 3x3 1/4-inch plate to spread the load for when we come up on that. We're not bending the chassis. We'll also gusset the 2x2 square stock that we send up to the chassis. Overall, it's coming out super sick. You're gonna see me switching between TIG torches quite a bit while we weld the rest of these out, and the front bumper and the rear bumper. That's because my torches are air cooled and, well, they're getting hotter than heck. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead, finish these sliders, put some supports in them, cap off the ends, and once those are all done, we'll get ready to mount up to the frame, do everything, weld it all out, and then we will MIG weld the sliders to the frame. I'm just more comfortable doing it that way. Don't ask why, I don't know. And once that's all done, we'll hop over to the rear bumper, start building that, and hopefully by the end of the week, we can get the rear bumper done, front bumper done, welded out, sliders done, welded on, and everything bolted on, and it's gonna look sick. And I listened to your comments. We're probably gonna paint the top. I haven't decided black, white, or purple yet, but we're gonna do something with it. How we figured out how to make all of these was I split the difference between the space from here to here, which came out to 13-inch increments. You got your 45 square here. It's actually called a speed square, even though it's a triangle. You go from the point you want it, make your line, and now you know exactly the plane you'll want this in. Tape measure, fold it up on that line, and you just kind of have to sight down, straight down, and the number was 3. We got these cut. Oh, uh-oh. Oh man, well, how embarrassing. It's just a little bit tight. But anyway, you get the idea. This one goes there, and this one goes there. They're just like an 1/8 inch different. And then this one, same concept over here. What worked best for me was I went and cut the 45 on my cold cut saw, and then I came over to my tube notcher and notched in the other 45. Pretty simple. We got the other ones tacked in already, welded it till the torch got hot. Now we'll do the same thing with this one. And then we will go to the steel yard and get more steel so we can build a tube bumper for the rear. Go grab probably 2, maybe 3 more sticks of steel just so we have some here. While the torch cools down, we'll get this welded out incrementally. Boom, boom, boom. Just kind of switch around, hop around, do stuff. We are now using some CAD, the cardboard kind of, to try and figure out what we need for the connecting points from the sliders to the chassis. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if we can't make them out of cardboard, and then we'll transfer them over to steel. Cardboard aided design. We're gonna cut 3 of these out of 2x2 1/8 wall, just like we used for the slider thing itself. And these are gonna connect the slider to the chassis. I'm gonna do 4 of these total. 3 of them should be the same. The farthest forward one will be a little bit longer because the frame necks in. So we'll go ahead and cut these out, tack them to this, make sure everything's happy. Once everything's happy, we'll fully weld them out to that, and we'll actually pull it back off, and we won't weld it to the frame yet because I do want to paint this before we weld it to the frame so that we don't, you know, get my nice bedliner paint job all painted up. All 3 of these supports on, and if you'll notice, we actually did get the MIG welder out. I know I said I was gonna TIG weld it all, but we are running out of time this week, so I'm gonna MIG weld these supports on, and I'm gonna MIG weld it to the frame when we get there. I will fully TIG weld the rear bumper and the front bumper, but just the stuff you're not gonna see, I'm gonna MIG weld just for the sake of hauling ass. But while I was doing this, my beautiful wife went and got this piece of paper. Yeah, buddies. I was gonna put it on the cab here somewhere, but I think it's gonna actually look really sick right here on the window. Let's clean this up and get this sticker on real quick. It's kind of a crooked decal. I'm just gonna peel it and send it. Don't mess up. Going for it. Let's see if any of our little words come off. All right, that's sick. I really like that. 1 out of 2 that we didn't mess up. So let's see if we can somehow not mess up 2 for 2. Yeah, someone's gonna teach me in the comments how to do this without being a doofus. Oh, 2 for 2. Bam, there and there. I'll go ahead and tack those in, and then we will get our final little support in and tack. There you go. First MIG weld I do, and I get it all wrong. We'll go put this up there, see if this piece that I kind of guessed on will work for the front one. I can't wait for my bigger welding table. But yeah, we got a table coming. You guys just wait. I'm so excited to show you guys what we have coming. Like, so excited. Yep. Yeah, I got it pretty close. We just this jack stands exactly in the way. Finally got this front bumper fully welded. I TIG welded almost all of it. Usually sliders and a bumper would take me like a day and a half. I think we're 3 days into this. On the rear bumper, we're probably gonna MIG weld quite a bit more. I still wanna TIG weld all the tube work, but anything underneath, bracketry, all that, we're gonna MIG weld. But front bumper, we got the notch on, we got it capped. We still have some bracketry to put in here. Like I said, we were gonna gusset the crap out of this and just make sure it's super strong. And the sliders, they are welded out. And they're actually a little bit heavy for what I'm used to, because I did put extra reinforcements in there. We are gonna put big fat plates in between the sliders and the frame. I let a ton of air out of these rear tires. The reason for that is now the jack stands that I have can be used as tube stands when we were building this rear bumper. We also had some technical difficulties with the camera yesterday, so you didn't get to see, but we got the brackets started for this rear bumper. So under here, if you look, we have these little frame extensions. They're sleeved way into the frame, and they already have a fat 1/2-inch bolt. I'll put one more in there, but they're super strong, and we actually couldn't get them out. So I'm just gonna use them as the bumper mount. So we're gonna bolt these to the frame extensions, I'm gonna call them. This one goes here. And when they are bolted, we will have a little box come off the bottom of them. We're gonna have a tube come around here and around here. This tube will die into this part of the box, and this tube will die into that part of the box. So we're supported on this side and on the rear, and the whole thing will be unboltable, so we can paint it, repair it, or powder coat it down the line. So that's what we'll do right now, is we're gonna build the box so that we have everything ready for tube when we start bending tube. All right. For making these brackets, we need an 11-inch piece, and I can't really do that with the bandsaw, and I don't feel like using a grinder, so plasma cutter it is. We're gonna cut out 2 pieces at 2 and 8 by 11 inches, and we'll bend these so that we just can make a bracket, weld it to the other bracket, and we'll be done. Plasma cutting is fast. It also makes stuff hot. We do need to put this in our press brake, and we don't want any slag going in the press brake, so we're gonna clean all the slag off this real quick, and then we will bend these up, and they'll be ready to weld on. I know I need a CNC plasma table. It's coming, I swear. Now we're gonna bend these because we need little U brackets, so we'll bend them in a U. Oh no, it's running into it. This wasn't exactly made for U-bends, and I forgot. Bigger pry bar. I did it, it's not a U anymore. We'll try this again. So I messed up that first piece, so now, well, we're cutting a new one. I really didn't need a full U-bend anyway. So we're gonna do L-bends, and yeah, it's really all we need anyway. Got our brackets welded. Man, are they hot still. Looks like everything's still happy, which is a very good sign, because if it was sad, the boy would be sad as well. We'll get both of these bolted in, and then I'll show you what we're doing from there. Super strong. Now we need to go ahead and build our primary tube going around this thing. It's gonna be a good time. I'm like so excited to get these bumpers done. it does look like this tube will be long enough. So polish the rest of it. And when it's polished, we will bend her up. We have our tube polished up. We have it kind of mocked up, and we want to make sure that the tailgate will be able to drop. Truck needs to be closer to the tube, and we're kind of in limbo with these stands, so we'll bring this up, and then we will go ahead and put some air in the tires, and it'll bring the truck up to exactly where we want it. Oh, I almost scratched my paint. Now we have my 90-degree bend template, which are my favorite things in the world. We'll make sure that we're parallel to the truck. 1 inch, 1 inch. Looks parallel to me, at least enough. We'll use our bend template, put it on here, and mark exactly where we're gonna want this bend. So luckily the first one doesn't matter too much, because we're gonna get an idea of what we want. Mark where our die needs to be. Yeah, we'll go ahead and throw a 90-degree bend in it. And what else I wanna do is mark center of our tailgate. 26.25 at the center. So now if this bend does work, we can just do the same thing over there and we know exactly the distance. So now we're gonna have to reset the bender because it's more than 45 degrees. You put your little keeper thing in there, bring this back, do it again. 90 degrees. And it looks like, if anything, we overbent it just a hair. It's not too bad, but we'll go to 93 next time. That was 95, maybe 94. So yeah, I guess we'll remedy that real quick. All right, so now you stand on that side, stand real hard. We'll put it under the lift. That was about a degree. I could feel it. I like it a lot. So the other side is 24.75. Do the same thing here. We will just go ahead and use our template, double check. I like that. We'll bend this to 94 and hopefully everything's happy. Make sure that this thing is going to bend flat. We're good. And off to 94 degrees we go. Well, I got excited, and if you've bent tube before, you know what taking it out of the wrong side means, and I took it out of the wrong side. So this tube is trash, at least this bend. So we will go ahead and snag a new tube, take a number, cut it down, and try again. See you in a minute with the correctly bent tube. All right, here's hoping that this time we get it kind of sort of right, maybe a little bit. Just for a minute, please. Scratched it. We're running a tire over there. I'm running a tire over here. Okay, so we need to cut off 2 inches, that on both sides, and then see what happens. Maybe I didn't screw this one up. Okay, so round 2, everything worked out. My bender was wrong. 95 on the bender is actually 90 degrees. So we needed an 89-degree bend. We now have the correct bends. Bender's reset to what it needs to be, and the rear bumper is looking pretty spiffy. So now what we need to do is we need to start attaching this to our bracket we made. We're gonna come under here. I'm gonna put a notch, just a square notch in this. We'll put it right next to the bracket. It'll make it easy to mark this tube, exactly the angle and the distance we need. We'll slide it in there. We'll weld it in there, at least tack weld it. And then we should, in theory, not need these jack stands anymore. And we can do the rest of the reinforcement and bumper building without the jack stands holding everything where it goes. Cut that, should be right. Oh, it's beating me up. We'll lose a little bit of paint on the tailgate, but I'm sure that won't be the first paint that we lose or the last paint that we lose. Maybe I'll notch the tailgate just a little bit. It is what it is at this point. I'm not cutting it out. I need as much clearance as we can get, and this is as much clearance as we can get. And we're done. After much struggle, I didn't realize how much struggle it would be, but we have this rear bumper, you know, at least the main tube here welded to the brackets. So what I'm gonna do for the next while is figure out how many and how much bracing to the chassis we're gonna do. And when I'm done bracing to the chassis, I'll go over everything I did and show you guys. And then we will start the quarter panel protectors, because you saw how much Bondo, if you watched the video, I put right here on these quarters. So I wanna keep them nice and keep the Bondo from chipping off. So we're gonna come up here with a tube, wrap around, and go over here. It'll look pretty good when it's all said and done, but like I said, right now, I'm gonna focus on getting this bumper reinforced like crazy. So when you have a notch really close to a bend, and you're using a notcher such as this one, this is the JD2 Notch Master, I think it's called. I don't know, because I have this big piece of plate in the way. Well, anyway, it's got this little channel that your tube's supposed to sit in, and then it indicates your tube center. That doesn't work when you're close to the bend. So I put this big fat piece over it, and then you just center it up, and you go really, really slow because it will move and it will bite you. And then you can notch your tube. Let me show you what I mean. If the bend is too close, you see how when that bend is in that channel, it just won't let you notch it. Quick little tip for when you have notches close to your bends. Also, we're making great progress. Got this tube in here. So when we come down here, it'll be super strong. We're gonna put a tube in right here, all the way over to that same bracket that we made, and we've done everything the same on the other side. We have 1 or 2 more tubes to put in here just to solidify the crap out of this, and we'll gust it up a little bit, and then we should be able to come off a rock, smash on this rear bumper, and not cry about it. All right, so we got the rear bumper pretty well reinforced. We have 1, 2, 3 points of contact on both sides. We got a lot of it welded out. I didn't want to warp it when we pulled it off and then welded it out. What we're gonna do now, install a receiver hitch because we're gonna tow goosenecks with this thing. Just kidding, no gooseneck towing. But I do want to have this just for recovery points. Throw a winch on it. We'll put a receiver, little shackle mount on here, whatever the case be. But we're gonna chop this tube, slide this up in here and mount it basically flush with the rear end. And then it also gives us something to connect. We're gonna do more structure in here. So we'll connect this tube to here, this tube to there, and maybe triangulate it just a little bit so we don't have this big span in between supports, because if we came down on a rock right here right now, I have a feeling this tube would get bent up quite a bit with the big 3-foot gap. That's what we're gonna do right now. Oh boys, today's video is actually brought to you by LC Engineering. They have been such a supporter in me, in Elevated Overland, and now Elevated Fabworks that, needless to say, I cannot thank them enough. If you guys need any Toyota parts, head over to lc.com, LC Performance, LC Engineering. I'm not sure their website, I'll link it below. But they are the man, they are the bee's knees. They are the ultimate people to go for all of your Toyota needs. This is a 529 diff for the Sun Raider, and they made sure that we could take the Sun Raider and the crawler out to Hammers to show everything off and to have a good time. So I can't thank them enough. So we're gonna dive into this thing. Oh man. Oh, big girthy girl. V6, Eaton E-Locker, rear differential for the Sun Raider. Thank you, LC Engineering. The boys there, Brian, Steve. I'm at a loss for words. This makes my life much easier, much more attainable. We're gonna be putting this in here soon. I am so pumped. An Eaton E-Locker. Yeah! I made it through, but she's all bound up. It's like stuck in there now. All right, I need to get this out of here. Don't scratch my paint. Be back in just a second, folks. Babe, I'm gonna need your help on this one. So we got this thing welded in, and while it seems kind of strong, we do need to reinforce the crap out of it. So we'll put a tube from our box that we have over here over to the receiver. Same thing on this side. We'll put a 45 from this end over to the center of this so that anywhere we come down on this, it's got reinforcements multiple places to the frame. We're gonna then work on these cab corners, get this whole rear bumper welded out, and hopefully by the end of today, maybe midday tomorrow, everything will be ready for paint or painted and we can actually get it together. 17-ish inches for both of these, and that should be long enough. See if we can't cut it not too short. Too long, which is, I'd rather too long than too short. All right, so we'll use this one to mark out the other two we gotta cut. I love splatter all over my belly. All right, so this is that tube that I messed up on that first bumper. We're going to do some rear little protection here. So I'll chop this up a little bit and put it up here a little bit more where I'm thinking and just start playing with ideas. It's like 91 degrees, 90.5. So now we know we need to bend the other one too if this one does work.
Yeah, it looks good. I want this angle to be very similar to what we have here. So we'll tighten this. So I'll just go find the angle of this with the speed square, and that's what we will make this notch to.
Dude, CK Worldwide sent us the sickest torch. Swivel so you can get any angle you need.
All right, so we threw a notch, 23-degree notch, and now I'm just going to roughly mark out where this tube will go through the long point. It's a short point. Now, I will notch this one. Look at that, we got bumper action. Everything's looking pretty good here, folks. Now we'll do this on the other side, and the rear bumper is basically done. Well, if you're gonna mess it up, you may as well royally mess it up, right? We've got a notch quite a bit. So right there. Sorry, people. Dang it, what an idiot. Aw, we're married now. Oh wow, that gap is awful. This just needs to be shorter. I think that'll work. Small gap and nothing some weld can't fill. We got the corner things on. They're super strong. Maybe not super strong yet, but they're gonna be when we weld them out. Before we pull this bumper off to fully weld it out, we have our two like connecting tubes to go to the frame here. I'm gonna connect those underneath and we'll pull this off, burn it in. Obviously we gotta trim some things, trim those, and then yeah, the rear bumper is just about dialed. So we are now grinding the frame down. Gonna make a big old plate here, weld it to the frame there, and up there. And when that is finished, we'll then have the place for these to land on. We'll weld these to the plates. But let's go look at the rear end, because this booty thick with 3 C's. We got this side dialed in, and we got so much reinforcements happening under here. So we tied these two tubes together, this one coming down and this one coming down. We tied these 2 tubes together, 45 brace there. So we have 8 contacts to the frame and everything is tied together in itself. We should be able to drop this thing on its booty without seeing detrimental issues, hopefully. We'll find out out in the lake bed. I'm gonna finish prepping the other side of the frame, cut a bunch of plates, weld them up to the frame, and then we're gonna make sure the sliders are still dialed. And if they are, we will get those starting to get painted, pull this off, weld it out.
Big old girthy. All right, you know how a welder knows when something's painted? When it starts to run. We got these just about painted. We're like coat number 4. I started these last night. We will let these dry up a little bit and they are ready to weld on. What we need to do now is pull the front bumper, gusset it up, pull the rear bumper, get it fully welded it out, welded it. I'm excited to see this thing kitted out with armor. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull that rear bumper, start welding. The bumper was built a little tight. Now we can't get it off. It's supposed to be bolt on, but it's acting like it's weld on. We're swapping to Chevy 63s anyway, so this won't be in the way when we're done with all this. But right now, it's in the way. So we're gonna pull this shackle out of here, and hopefully that'll give us the room we need to finagle this down and we can get this out of here. And then before I get the rear bumper back on, I guess we're gonna be putting Chevy 63s into this, which is in the next episode. So we may not see the bumper back on for this episode. It's just life. Let's get this bumper off. It's being a pain. Need a hammer. Very tight.
Careful! You just pushed it into it.
Okay.
Ah,
Got one?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just. Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Dang, I dented it. Alright, just one dent. That's not the end of the world.
There we go.
Alright, couple dents, you know. I guess that's part of the game. It's a small dent and scratch and chip. It's in everything. Don't look at it. It's pretty sad. I built armor specifically to protect this section, and my armor smashing the section. I was long overdue for a new welding helmet. I'm not that great of a TIG welder, but being able to see exactly what you're doing is obviously a huge improvement over not really seeing it. Time to get the MIG welder out. Almost done. This is the last weld.
I got some cutting and then a couple more welds. I always underestimate the projects I take on. We're finally done. Got the caps on, everything is welded out. All the tube is TIG welded. Anything to the brackets could be MIG welded. Finally, we're finished with that. We're gonna pull this front bumper off now, get these 2 gussets in, make sure everything is welded on this. Once that cools, we'll paint it, and in between that being welded, we're gonna weld those onto the frame. That's the plan of attack, and we're trying to get all this done tonight, and it is 6:41. We got some stuff to do, but we're gonna kick it in overdrive and get it done. Look, halfway there. Stayed up super late last night getting all of the gussets on this thing. We used some cardboard to template it out, transferred the cardboard over to steel, bandsaw, did the whole thing. They're in here welded. I TIG welded it all together because TIG welding's fun. This morning we got a package, Factor 55, hooked it up, got an ultra hook. I love these things. They are so clean looking. I mean, look at that thing. So we will put that on the winch when we get the winch on the bumper. Right now our focus is getting the sliders welded onto the freaking frame. We got those plates on that I said I was not gonna do 100 times, but we ended up getting them on because with such a beefcake rear bumper, you just have to. So we'll get these welded on, get the bumper on there once we do one more set of brackets on the front bumper, and then we are basically done here. The rear bumper is not going on until the rear springs have been swapped to Chevy 63s. We are very, very close to finishing the armor on this thing, and I'm pumped. Don't scratch the paint. Scratch the paint. And we even have a bunch of little tissue on here so we don't scratch our fresh paint job. It's not like we're dropping this thing on rocks or anything. Well, I think it's where I want it because it's definitely not moving now. Yeah, their side was way higher, like an inch higher. Let some air out of the tires, I guess. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, we let a lot of air out of this bad boy. And that'll work. Phew, we're just about done. Front bumper's done, rear bumper's done, and he's painted, and these are welded on now. Oh yeah, money. Just wide enough to when you get out and they're muddy, your entire rear end is just coated in mud. That is a downfall of the side. I'm really liking the 545s that we have in here. It just looks clean and fully TIG welded. You can't really tell after all the paint, but you know, those who know will know. Those welds you can't see. You just kind of got to send it. Smash enough weld on there until you're confident. Sliders are welded. Now, front bumper tab, and we're done. The last thing we got to do is put 2 more brackets on this thing because I'm kind of scared that we'll rip the entire front bumper off if we do break down on chocolate and some idiot tries to winch us out. So I can prep the frame here so we can weld 2 big fat brackets to this front cross member and this front cross member, come out with it, and then we'll use some 1/2" grade 8 bolts to pinch this bracket to the new bracket that we put on there. And we'll bolt it, boom. Then it'll be super strong, boom. All right, go something like that. I think I'm gonna put the bumper on, bolt the bumper on, then weld these on, then pull the bumper off and do the thing. Oh, don't scratch it. Some little warped action. Oh, we do have a little bit of warp action. That one's happy. One there. Weld them in place. Should have got the vice grips out, boys. Too tight. Something you don't hear often. Oh! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Felt that one. I got shocked. I ain't tripping on that. No mo, no mo, no mo. She can officially be hung from a tree. All right, one of the very last things we gotta do today is get this Warn VR Evo 10S up in here. Shoo! That thing looks good. And it'll look even better paired with this Factor 55 Ultra hook. That's absolutely a look. Front bumper is done. Sliders, they're welded on. The rear bumper is ready to go on. Yeah, I think we're about done here for today. That does it for today, guys. We got the front bumper finished. The Warn winch and the Factor 55 Ultra hook are in there, ready to go. We got the rear bumper completely welded out. It's ready for paint. The sliders are completely finished. Next time you see this thing, we're gonna be getting it completely mechanically dialed, rear suspension, front suspension, even some engine upgrades. But right now, I need to start on all the shop upgrades that we have going on, and we have a ton of stuff to show you in the next video, shop upgrade video. If you wanna see that, click the like button, subscribe button, but I'm gonna get to work. See you guys later.